This is a production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show, it's 95 degrees or 94 degrees here, and it's summertime, and there's lots of activities that we could be doing outside, and please wear your sunscreen. And we've got a couple of folks on the show today that are going to talk about all kinds of things, from racing cars to riding horses to finding a way to travel with your horses so that they've got a great place to be, and also if you want to build a theme park, or if you want to put something like that together, we can help you do that too. So the whole idea is to get people outside, enjoy themselves, and enjoy, stop being inside with the iPads and that kind of stuff. But first, I got to talk to Eric. Eric, it's hot.
It is indeed. Yeah. 90 degrees today. So we've got a little bit of a heat wave going on, and looks like it's going to be in the 90s for the next few days. So hopefully folks are able to stay cool.
Can you change that for me, please? That's too hot. It's just too hot.
Well, good news. By the weekend, it'll be cooling down a bit. So,
well, that's really cool. And a couple things I want to make sure, and Eric, you can help me with this to make sure that we put out a couple of public service announcements. One is make sure you have lots of water. You're
that's
hydrated.
Right. Stay hydrated. Yep.
And make sure that you are it's cool indoors, as cool as you can get it, and get the wind, the fans going if you don't have air conditioning, which sadly a lot of us don't, and try and take care of yourself and be hydrated. And the other thing is, I'm not sure if it was, I think it was talking to you, Eric, that last week an 18-month-old died in a car. I think I was talking to you about that.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah.
And we want to make it clear to everybody that you leave your pets, and make sure that you don't leave your child in the back seat when you go to work. I don't know if that means putting a picture. How would you suggest, Eric, to remind people that they've got maybe a sleeping child in the back? Would you put up a sign up front in the window? What would you do?
It doesn't hurt. My car actually has a little notification that says, look in your back seat when you park the car. So I think more cars are getting that as well. So it's always a good reminder to actually, hey, follow, do what the notification says, and look in your back seat before you leave your car, because, people get forgetful, especially when it's hot and they're tired and all that. And on the cooling thing, I did want to mention that, famously, in Western Washington, a lot of folks do not have AC. So if it is getting too hot for you, there are cooling centers set up throughout the state, and you can call 211 to find your nearest one, and get information on keeping cool. So just want to throw that out there for folks, or go on the web and look at 211info.org.
Oh, thank you very much for that. I did not know that. That was really, really good information to have. So it's 211.
211. And of course, your local public library is always a good place to cool off and enjoy a book as well.
Exactly. That would be really cool, because I live in a 55 plus mobile home community, and there are a lot of older folks here, and sometimes they are in their house and it can be 95, and you really, if you have got an older person that you are connected to, I'll give them a call and make sure that they're doing everything that they can do to take care of themselves. Or it might be a fun afternoon to go pick them up and call 211 and take them to a cooling center and have a nice chat or something.
For sure. Yeah. Or like I said, your local library would be a great spot to do that as well.
Exactly. Well, we got a show today where we got a couple of folks that love the outdoors. They love horses. One has 8 horses. I don't know how many Catherine has, but let's introduce Catherine to begin with, and then we'll introduce our guest for the hour in just a second. Catherine, how are you?
I'm great today. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Oh, you're more than welcome. How hot is it where you are?
Well, I'm up north a little bit further than Seattle, so it says it's about 80. Feels much hotter though.
Well, if it feels that hot, it probably is. So if you feel like it's that hot, you need to take care of yourself. Do you have
Yeah.
any other suggestions besides what Eric and I just offered for folks to stay cool?
Well, an old-fashioned air conditioner. If you don't have air conditioning, you can take a tin or a pot cookie sheet and put a big chunk of ice on it. If you have some way to freeze some ice, and you can blow a fan on it, and it works great. I used to do that and do that for my animals, and also for animals, you can just make like a wet bed. You can wet down something, put something that's waterproof underneath it so that they have something cool to lay on and blow a fan.
Now, do you have chickens?
No, I don't
Oh,
have chickens.
well, because my son just got 5 of them,
Mhm.
and I don't know if you know this, but when you get little chicks and they're like 2 weeks old or 3 weeks old and they deliver them to you or you pick them up, you don't really know if it is a hen or a rooster.
That is
And
true.
when I was in the chicken business way back when,
Ooh,
they actually had experts, and they were mostly little Asian women who could tell the difference between a hen or a rooster, and they would pay them pretty good money to go into the flock and to separate them out. Did you know that even was a thing?
I didn't know that they did that back then. I know now that there's no way that they say that they can tell. So there's a lot of controversy about that subject.
Yes. Well, well, as it turns out, they got 5 little chicks, and they think 2 of them are roosters. Now,
Um,
they got the chicks so that they could lay eggs. To my knowledge, I don't think roosters lay eggs.
no, but there are sanctuaries that you can contact. Unfortunately, that's probably a subject for another day, but that we probably should cover. But as far as birds go, if you can keep them and you're in a neighborhood that doesn't have a zone for noise for them, the roosters are beautiful and they're good protectors of family. They will look after your family. Like if they become like part of your like if you have kids, they'll protect your kids. If you have dogs, they'll protect your dogs. So they're good family pets, actually.
Except at 5 o'clock in the morning when your neighbors are trying to sleep and they can be very loud.
Yeah, but you have to kind of take the good with the bad, right?
Well, and that's part of it. So I guess what they're going to have to do is figure out what to do with the 2 roosters, because quite
Farm.
frankly, they don't make very good. They don't make a good dinner. A rooster doesn't.
No, no, they don't. But you could check with some local sanctuaries or some local rescues to see if they have any ideas on where you might be able to place them. Maybe somebody through church or some organization that they have a farm, and maybe they could use them.
That's a good idea. As a matter of fact, let's talk to our guest today because he has chickens. He's also got ducks. He's got 8 horses. He's got all and he's a weight car driver. He drives really fast and stuff. And he also is CEO of a company that is called Select Contracts. And what they do is they will, if you have well, I guess I should ask what they do and ask him what they do, because I'm sure he knows much more than me. But Catherine, this is Chris. Catherine, how are you?
Hey, Catherine, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, very well, thank you. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Oh, thanks for being here. We're excited to have you here because we're going to talk about horses, and we're going to talk about summertime activities and how to put them all together so that you can get outside. Because I was thinking the other day, I don't see kids. Now, I'm a little older than both of you. I probably am, you could add up your ages and that would be me. But when I was a kid, kids would ride bikes all over the place.
True.
You had baseball fields and little football fields and little soccer fields that you could grab the kids in the neighborhood and everybody would go and play a pickup game of soccer. And I don't see any of that anymore.
No,
I don't see kids outside.
we used to go out, what, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning on the bikes and disappear off into the countryside and come back in time for dinner. And that was it. No worries, easy, no phones, no games, no TVs. So no, that was fun back in those days. We're trying to bring that back.
Yeah,
that's
and
wonderful.
yeah, and because of that, you were in much better shape than the kids are today, because sitting around playing with your iPad doesn't really get your cardiovascular system going and your imagination and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's great what you guys are doing. So first of all, tell us about your farm, and then we'll talk. You guys can talk animals, and what do you do with a rooster in a residential district?
Yeah, I was going to say we should talk about chickens because that's way more fun than talking about work. So let's get back onto that topic. Yeah, we've got chickens and we've got roosters here. We used to have about 60 laying hens, and they just kind of, they live for between 3 and 5 years. So I think we're down to maybe 10 at the moment. But we've got 2 roosters, and so one of them's the protector, and then we've got one that's the heir to the throne, if you like, so that he will become the main rooster once the older one dies. But we try and rehome them as much as possible. So everyone needs a rooster. We live really remotely, so we're up in the mountains above Whistler in British Columbia. So we're at the end of the Pemberton Meadows Road, so surrounded by mountains, which also means surrounded by grizzly bears and black bears and coyotes and wolves and all sorts of stuff. So we need protectors for the chickens, and so ours works every single day protecting the chickens, and so you've got to have a rooster. So a lot of our neighbors, they also need them, and so if we do incubate, we're then giving the roosters to friends generally.
Now, I said earlier that it's hard to tell the difference between a hen and a rooster. Is that true?
When they're born, yes, it's very, very difficult. There's a method called sexing, which you can sex them when they're born or when they're incubating, and then you can just get the hens out, but I have no idea how you do that. We probably get 60% hens, 40% roosters, something like that. So you end up with quite a few roosters when you do that. And if you do need to put them down, then they make great stock. So again, like you were saying before, you can't eat them, but they make great stock. So you can turn them into chicken stock. But we try and rehome them as many as possible because they're all amazing creatures.
I learned this a long time ago because I was a salesman for Simmons Foods, and it was a vertically integrated poultry company. And so I said, well, how do you know which, because they get these big shipments of chicks. How do you know what's what? And they said, and this is no lie, they said there is a group of people, and most of them happen to be Asian, that are really smart at doing what you just said, sexting, so that they can pull out the roosters, and then the roosters go someplace else.
Yeah, totally. But anyway, ours is called S'more. He's a big Sussex rooster, and so he protects the rest of the girls. So it's awesome. If I'd known this was the topic of conversation, I could have brought him in and put some headphones on him, and he could have joined into this radio station.
Oh, that'd have been fun.
Maybe that's next time. Or if my children are listening to me, maybe they should go and catch him and bring him in. So it depends.
How hard is it to catch a rooster who's running around?
Well, ours are used to people. So the older one's used to people, so you can catch him really easily. And then the younger one, not so much. So it's pretty challenging catching him. But you just got to be super quick.
Well, I remember the film Rocky. I don't know if you saw Rocky 2, but one of the old school boxing things was if you could catch the chicken, that means you got quick.
Oh, that's awesome! I don't remember that from the movie. That's great.
So there, and you have how many horses?
So we've got 8 of our own horses, and then we've got 1 border horse here as well. So one guy that leases the field to keep his horse out here. So. Yeah, it's great. They're ranging in age from 5 through till 25. So the 25-year-old's retired now. So and then the 5-year-old training them up, and we've got a load of horses in between. So yeah, it's great. It's nice. It's awesome having horses.
You know, it's interesting because when Catherine came on the show originally, we were going to talk about photography. Well, we talked about photography, but she also is a horse woman of note. And so we ended up talking the rest of the show about that. So I should just shut up and let the two of you talk about horses.
Yes, that's good.
I don't know about that, Kevin, but yeah, that was an interesting. We totally deviated from the photography, and Kevin was really interested in all the horse aspect of everything that I did too. I do equine photography as well.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
so I do a lot of polo photography,
Mhm.
and then pet photography, dogs, feline, chickens. I think I had an interview with a cow, after I was on the show with Kevin. So yeah.
And what did the cow have any enlightening things to say?
Actually, the cow was quite hungry when I was there, and it was hot out, so no. Went to the bathroom a lot.
Well, I'm glad to know that.
No, I will be having that story coming up, but yeah, it was a fun interview. It was enlightening to know what happens to animals, just like the roosters, just like what Chris was saying. If you can find somebody that's on a farm or a neighbor that is willing to take a rooster, they're great protectors, right, Chris?
Yeah, they are, and they're great just having around the ranch as well. So, when they're let out, they're just running around, and it's just awesome having them on the ranch, just being free range.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
good.
on the horse end of things, how did you get into horses?
I think growing up, I was always around horses. Loads of friends had horses, so I used to ride a lot growing up. And then when we bought the ranch up here, we've ridden for years and years and years, and I got my kids into it when they're super young. I got two daughters, one that's 15 and one that's 17. And so they started riding maybe when they're 3 and 5. And so we've been riding forever. And then we bought our own horses in 2016, and we just keep adding to the herd. So, so they're mountain horses. So we ride up in the mountains and do pack trips on them quite a lot.
Oh.
Which is great. So, yeah, full on mountain horses, live outside all year round. They're rock hard. But it's beautiful up here. There's so many beautiful rides up in the mountains and getting up into the alpine and things. So it's great having them here. Do you have horses yourself?
I currently don't have any horses that I own. I have a leaser on my land. I also have land. I have 53 acres over in Eastern Washington along the Columbia. Yeah, right. So there's a leaser on my land that has a herd of horses that they foal on our property. We have 10 foals right now on the property, and with a beautiful, gorgeous backdrop. And
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so they're outside year round too. They don't have any indoor, shelters or anything like that.
Yeah, that means they're proper horses. It's
yep.
It's different breeds in different places. Like these big horses we've got, they were born up in the mountains and they've been used to the winters up here all their lives, so they're used to it. But you bring a horse up from Vancouver that lives in stables, it definitely doesn't like being outside in the wintertime. So just different upbringings.
Right.
Great with it though.
Yeah.
Well, this show is going into the Seattle area, and there's a lot of metro around Seattle, but there's not a lot of pastures for horses and that sort of thing. So you're going to have to educate us a little bit. What is a mountain horse?
So mountain horse is a horse that's grown up in the mountains. It's got big feet, so it can handle climbing up the sides of mountains and riding up rocky trails to get to the top of the mountains, basically. So just much bigger, stronger horse, much bigger, stronger horse. So strong legs, strong feet, and powerful to be able to climb up with people on their backs.
So if I was to come riding with you and I weighed 250 something pounds, would that be too much for that horse?
We've got one horse that we could put you on who could cope with that, with 250 pounds. So the bigger the horse, the better. And yes, a stronger horse, a mountain horse, would do much better at that for sure.
Would he hate me at the end of the ride?
You wouldn't be his best friend by any means, but he'd be all right.
Because I can only think that the poor horse is going, are you really going to get on my back and you're going to ride me? Are you serious about this?
Yeah, no, they'll be thinking that for sure. They'll be looking at you at the corner of their eye. But yeah, they'll be fine. We've already got two that could cope with 250 pounds. But yeah, that's you'll have to try it. You'll have to come up sometime.
So both of you, when you're a horse rider of note, how much do you weigh?
Well,
Anybody?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah, I'm like 175, 180 pounds maybe. And then when I pack them, so you've got pack saddles that you can put your tent and your sleeping bag and all your cooking stuff on when you go for multiple days. I'm packing about 120 pounds on their backs, and they're great with that. Yeah, so 180 pounds is easy for them.
And so you have a pack horse that is, and we talked about this last time, didn't we, Catherine? That a pack horse operates a little bit differently than a saddle horse.
You and I talked about it, I think. Before,
oh, that was you and I. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a pack horse is trained to be a pack horse, and a saddle horse is trained to be a saddle horse.
Yeah, ours are trained to be both, so that we've got different horses to do different things. But a good pack horse understands that it's got the extra width on its back. It's got these big boxes on its back, and so a pack horse understands that it's wider than if it's got a human on its back. And so when you're riding through the forest and through the trees, it knows to take a wider path through, so it doesn't hit the trees with the boxes. And it's also looking for prompts from the lead horse. If I'm riding my horse and I've got the pack horse on a line behind me, it's always looking to see if I'm going to speed up to ride up a hill or slow down. So it's always looking for the prompts from the lead horse. And so that's the basic training for a pack horse, is to look at that. But
They're
then
pretty
also,
smart.
if the pack horse hurts himself, you need to be able to take the pack off its back, put it on the horse that you're riding, and then walk them out so the pack horse doesn't have anything on its back. So that's why you always want all of your horses to be good with packs, just to make it much easier and safer when you're trying to get out the backcountry too.
That's really interesting. Catherine, have you ever done that and gone into the backcountry with horses and packs and all that kind of stuff, and did camping?
I haven't packed or camped overnight, but my horse, I used to do dressage back in the day. So I had a horse that grew up down in Lebanon, Oregon, and I had my horse ponied from a age of a colt up into the mountains there as something to do in the meantime. And so I would take lessons from Alan Hicks, who was really good at everything. And he took me up on his horses up into the mountains. And so when I would go down to visit, that's what I would do. And he was really funny. He tested me out first because he was like, oh, arena rider, right? And so, but I grew up in Yakima, and I used to race on the ditch bank and things like that. So I rode on the ridge up there in Antanum. But anyway, he tested me out, and then he decided I was okay, and he would let me go along. But
yeah, it's good to qualify people.
Yeah, it's a little different. I think that what was unique about it is when you have a good pack horse, the same thing as a good trail horse, you just give them rein and they know what they need to do.
Totally. Yeah.
I'll take care of you.
Yeah. And the outfitters, like the hunting outfitters up north, like they're packing customers into the bush all the time on the horses. Their pack horses, they don't even have a line to them. They just are loose, and they just know to follow on behind them, and they pick their own path through, which is amazing.
Right.
It's a whole different level again. Yeah, I'm not sure mine would do that. I think mine would maybe just kind of start to eat, but if they're fully trained like that, they're great. Incredible. Yeah.
And then one time I did go up into to Calgary, and my mom back in the day, we went up into the back country up there and did like a trip in where you ride and then you whitewater raft out. Wow. Yeah, so we did that on the back of the Canadian Rockies one time. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's great multi-activity day.
Yeah.
So how big of a boat does it take to put a horse on?
Yeah, the horses are whitewater rafting down, not the humans, right?
Yeah. Well, never mind. I was just joking. I did have a question for both of you, though, which is there are some people that would say that riding on a horse and not letting them just be free and stuff, that they're not as happy as they might be if they were just running free and being left alone. But they enjoy the whole process, don't they?
I believe they do. Yeah, I believe they do. They don't have to worry about food ever, right? So when they're owned and they're not free, they get their guaranteed meals, which they're ready for all the time, and so they like that, and they like the human interaction. Like the bond you get with the horse is incredible. And so they're comfortable being owned and being ridden in the mountains. So yeah, I'd say they're happy.
How would you describe when you are bonding with a horse? Hate to ask, what does that actually look like when you're bonding with a horse? I mean, is it
just
that they just
it's not like one moment. It happens over time. It happens through shared experiences. Same way as you become friends with people, that bond gets deeper when you share more and more experience with somebody. And so it's the same with a horse. So riding a horse a lot, having experiences like our experiences up here might be, coming across a grizzly bear on a trail and managing that situation, or having a pack of wolves close by and managing that situation, or the horse falling over and getting stuck and you helping them stand back up again. And so it's just a collection of shared experiences that creates a really, really good bond. And you don't get them with every horse by any means. You get them with certain horses. And so, when it happens, it's really unique.
So when I was a kid, we were riding horses and we had a guide and everything. And there was a black bear that was in this garbage dump, and he started throwing jars and cans at the horses and stuff. And the horses went crazy and went up and and stuff like that. Are horses really scared of bears? And I imagine they would be.
Yeah, again, it depends on the training and where you're riding. So if you've got a stable horse in Seattle that doesn't see anything, and then and then they see one in the wild, they won't know what it is, and so they'll be super concerned and super nervous when they see something that they haven't seen before. But yeah, I mean, there's a trail company up here that takes people out, and it's bringing tourists through. And so when the tourists are on the back of the horses and they see a bear, they scream out going, "Oh my God, it's a bear, it's a bear, it's a bear." And so the horse senses that nervousness. And so now that horse trail company, if someone shouts bear, the horses are immediately nervous because they're used to people on their back being nervous. But if they didn't say anything and they saw a bear, they'd be totally relaxed. The horses up here are used to it. The horses in Vancouver, not so much. Maybe the ones in Seattle, not so much. But once they start seeing them, they get used to them.
I gotta ask the two of you, because this is something that I don't know that we know a lot about, which is horses. And Catherine, you go first. Horses have got this sixth sense about them, that they can sense your feelings and what's going on with you.
Right.
Where do they get that? And is that, I realize that's
the predator prey thing, they get hunted. So they have instincts that they're born with, and they can sense things, they can smell things before you even are aware, because that's bred into them to keep
interesting.
them safe, to keep them alive. It's a matter, Chris was talking about they're happy because they get fed, they have shelter, they have human contact. It's a herd mentality, there's safety in numbers. And if they're, signaled out, then they can be killed, so that's where that comes from. And then with people, it's a trust factor. That's what Chris was mentioning. The experiences build trust, and the more trust you build as a partner with them, the more that they'll do for you, or they'll even protect you in a situation sometimes.
Yeah, totally. On that, we had a fully grown male cougar come through the ranch a few years ago, maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago, something like that. And it was on a different ranch, different horses. I knew the horses really, really well. And I was walking along this path and I heard something in the bushes, and I thought it was a bear. So I just kind of looked behind the bushes to see what it was. And this cougar jumped out and landed on the trail, maybe 5 feet in front of me. And this thing was fully grown male cougar. And so naturally you've got to become the predator. So I got super big and started shouting at this thing. And then as I was doing it, I was backing into the horse field, and the horses ran between me and the cougar to protect me. And in the end, the cougar ran off. So it's incredible that bond and that protection, they're there to protect you just as much as vice versa.
That is really awesome. That is really awesome.
Yeah,
by the way,
it was such an incredible experience for that to happen. 4 of the horses came to protect me. It was super cool.
Absolutely. So we're by the way, we're talking with Chris Sutton. We're going to talk about racing actual cars, and
if we get to it, sounds like the horse is the topic for the day.
I know. Well, we need to take a break right now, and when we come back, though, I want to go turn to that, and also Catherine and her photography and doing what you do, and so that people can get a good sense of how talented these people are that we bring on our show. So I'm looking forward to doing both of those things. But first, we need to take a real quick break. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio on KKNW 1150. Hey, PTR loyal listener. First, thanks for being in my dream. And second, I have a new concept in business to share with you. It's called socialpreneurship. So, what's that? Well, it's the idea that any company designates all profits beyond expenses to be awarded to a local or international charity or project which is working to achieve good in the world. KM Media is such a company. We believe that it's important for us to give back whenever possible and to make great things happen. So I hope you'll join us in creating this new business model that will positively impact all of us. In the next few weeks, we will lay out the plan and begin our fundraising efforts. So stay tuned for more details right here on Positive Talk Radio.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal. anaturaldesign.com at your fingertips today.
Hey, thanks for listening to Positive Talk Radio. Did you know that we're also a media production company? Well, surprise, we are. We can create all kinds of audio, video products to fill any need. Please visit kmmedia.pro/our-store for a complete list of products and services. In addition, do you need a great voice to add to your own website or any other project? I know that we can add depth and quality to your work. I've been told more times than I can count by many professionals in the business that my voice adds to the quality of the presentation. So let me create something for you. Please contact me at kevin@kmmedia.pro and let's create something great. Oops, and welcome. I was enjoying that commercial so much that I forgot to play the music to come back. We're talking with Chris Sutton and with Catherine James, and she's a photographer of note. And I want to thank you, Catherine, for being here, because since I know nothing about horses and nothing about much of what Chris does, I felt it would be a good thing to have you along to kind of guide me through it. So the next question I have for you is, what do you know about cars?
Cars. Well, I love cars. I love to go fast. And I have done some photography for the rally for Matt, for Holly's. Yeah, significant. So I've been out to dirt track and done photography, and I have some photography on my website as well. Yeah.
And Chris has got a website called 4 Points Racing. And is it 4pointracing.com?
4pointracing.ca.
Oh, that's because you're in Canada.
In Canada, exactly.
Indeed. So now you are, by the way, an award-winning racer of note. And what does that take to be?
It's fairly expensive sport. It's just takes a lot of dedication. It's having a good car that's reliable, and then it's understanding how to drive safe but quickly at the same time. So yeah, it's such an incredible sport, such a great adrenaline rush. And I think the family around rally is incredible. So everybody's helping each other, everyone's giving each other's tips. Each mechanics from different teams come and help out on different people's cars. So it's just such an incredible experience being able to go to rallies and race. And so I race in Alberta, I race in British Columbia, in Washington, and down in Oregon as well. So yeah, awesome sport to participate in.
I think it would scare the heck out of me because, Matt showed some movies of him racing, and it's like you're racing on a dirt track, and you've got trees on the left of you, trees on the right of you, and you've got about 12 feet in between. And you have to have a co-pilot who is telling you left, right, here, hill, going down, all that kind of stuff. Don't you get a little, and ask both of you, because you've been out there too, Catherine, don't you get a little frightened by going fast like that? Maybe it's because I'm old. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's so Matt that you're talking about. Matt's been a co-driver to me a couple of times. So he co-drove for me at the Oregon Trail Rally this year, and he co-drove at a test day last year as well. And so, yeah, Matt's an amazing guy. I'm happy that he's one of my closest friends. But you've got to trust your co-driver. So you're driving as fast as you possibly can. Co-driver's giving you the direction of the corner, the severity, and so I use 1 is very, very tight and 6 is just a gentle curve, and everywhere is in between that. So the direction, left or right, the severity, and then the distance to the next corner, and also picking out whether you've got to cut the corner or not cut the corner, or keep it clean, or is there a crest that you've got to go over, what's after the crest. So there's all this information that's coming in. And so I came into the sport through rallycross, which is what Catherine, you'd have taken photos out of Dirtfish at the cars racing the rallycross. And that's an enclosed stage with cones. So it's, I don't know, maybe a minute and a half to 2 minutes long. And you're racing, you start and you finish in the same spot, basically. And so I did 16 events of that last year, when you're just focusing 100% on driving. And then when you go to stage rally, which is what Matt and I do now, when you move to stage rally, you've got to drive as fast as you can. The stages, the track is just a forest road that goes from point A to point B. You get to drive it twice before you race at slow speeds to take down the notes and everything. But then you've got to be able to learn to drive fast whilst taking that information into your ear. And that's the first couple of races. It takes a while to actually start to register, to listen to someone else. Because when you're driving, you're never listening to someone giving you instructions about what the next corners are. So you need to learn to understand that. And so I worked really closely with Matt, and he helped me through that phase to get to know that. But then you've just got to trust that your notes are right when you do the recce, as we call it. And you've got to trust that your co-driver is in the right place on the notes when they're calling them to you. And so that's the biggest stress. But so you don't drive at 100% of your capability. You're driving slightly less than that. So you're being slightly more cautious than you would on a rallycross circuit where you are driving at 100%.
See, my wife used to do that. We called that backseat driving.
That was so funny. I was going to bring that up, but I wasn't sure if we'd be allowed to say that, so I kept that out. But yeah, that's a good example.
And she wouldn't shut up, which is why she's now my ex-wife. But that's another story.
Yeah.
Catherine, what do you think?
I think when you get, I don't know, when I get behind the wheel and I'm doing things that are a little dangerous, I just get lost in the moment, right? So I'm not really thinking about the danger. I'm just thinking about having a great time and focusing on just like Chris was saying, you have somebody telling you where to go sometimes not. And so you're just focusing on the road. You're just in that moment and nothing else is there. Like I would have a hard time hearing somebody talking to me because I would just be so focused.
Totally. Yeah, and that's what you got to learn to listen. You need to listen to it. And so my co-driver, someone called Hayley Hoffman, she's Canadian as well. She works up at the up north in one of the camps. And so we spend a lot of time in the car together and just reading notes and understanding notes and just building that trust between us all the time. So it's a great relationship. It's a great trust relationship between driver, co-driver. Co-driver's trusting that the driver's going to keep the car on the road. Right. And the driver's trusting the co-driver that the calls are correct, that really is a left 3 and not a right 2, right? It's making sure that's
right. What about you, Kevin? I mean, have you ever been anywhere and been in like a side-by-side, like racer type, dirt machine of any kind and driven that or been along for a ride?
No, ma'am, not a chance. Although,
well, you should try that. That should be on your bucket list.
No, I would end up in a bucket if I tried that. But I did drive a Metro 60-foot bus for 12 years.
Well, that's dangerous.
Well, and 12 years, and I never got into a preventable accident. Now, I was in several accidents, including rear-ended by another bus. darn him anyway. But you know, going as fast, because you really have got to have two things that struck me. First of all, is when the lay people like me would assume that if you were two people in a car, that the driver's the king, he's the one who's really in control, and this co-pilot is kind of secondary. I'm learning today that that's really not true. That without a really, really good co-pilot that can communicate effectively with you, you could end up wrapped around a tree. Am I right?
Yes, that's right. So if you don't trust your co-driver, you're not driving as fast as you should, like as fast as you could, because you're being more cautious, you're kind of reading the road yourself. And so some people just feel sick, some people lose themselves on notes, and so sometimes you just can't trust your co-driver. But yeah, I'm really lucky so far. I've had some amazing co-drivers in my time, and they've all been fantastic. So yeah, got to choose correctly.
Oh, now, is that something that you would want? See, to me, that would be too much pressure, Catherine, to be somebody that was the shouting out the directions and stuff. Because sometimes, have you ever said go right when you actually meant left?
Yeah, definitely do that in horseback riding and dressage too. But I have to say, I would prefer being the driver because I love the thrill.
Mm-hmm.
So when like we go places and we go on vacations, my husband, I always look at him like, can I just drive? You know, and I promise you it'll be fun. And so, yeah, he just holds on and I just have a great time. So.
Until the policeman stops you, and then the good time goes away.
Well, no, these are places that you're able to do that. You know, like Maui up on the mountaintop, you can go up there, and you know, pretty much what you do is you just try to get up front where the leader is, and basically once the dirt flies, you can't see anything, and the rule is you just don't stop. you can't see anything, and you're driving, and you can barely see where you're going, and it's fun. It's a good thrill.
So you've been on Maui,
yeah,
Catherine? Yeah,
many times. Yeah,
I'm so sorry for those of you who may not know. There've been some huge wildfires in Maui, and that I think last count there were like almost 90 people have lost their lives there. So if you have the ability to donate to the Red Cross or something on their behalf, I would highly encourage you to do that.
I agree.
Because there were towns that were completely just wiped out by the fire.
Yeah.
Which is
sad.
So
I did catastrophe, but yep, that's another show, right?
Yeah, it is. But I just wanted to mention that because it's important that we provide people with, some interesting knowledge as well. So, Chris, we've got one more company that we haven't talked about yet. That you are the CEO of. By the way, when we put out your websites, which website do you have so many, sir?
It depends what we end up talking about. Yeah, there's a couple. So I've invested into a company called Bed and Bail, and so that's a horse riding company, and basically it's a travel app. So when you're traveling with your horses, you can plan your route, and service providers list out places that you can stop and stay overnight with your horse, kind of like an Airbnb for people with horses. So there's stables, there's pastures, there's hay, there's a place for you to stay. So it's for when you're traveling a route across Canada or the US, but it's also for emergencies. So if you're traveling and your truck breaks down, or you lose a wheel on the trailer, whatever it might happen, you need to be able to get the horse out of there and get it to safety. And so the app was originally designed so you could find a safe place to take your horse in an emergency situation. And subsequently to that, it's become a planning tool for people traveling across country. And now it's morphed even further, where it's a resource for anybody in the equine industry. So Catherine, as an equine photographer, you could list your services online, and people could find that service. And so, yeah, it was it's a great app. It's called Bed and Bail, and we did 3 years of R&D on it, which was incredibly expensive. And so now the app's running kind of really, really well, and we charge a small monthly fee to be able to subscribe to that. So there's a lot of subscribers. I think it's like 10,000 people that use it right now, which is great.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Catherine, what do you think of that?
Well, I think it's a great a great app. I guess as a person, if I was listening to the show, I'd kind of want to, I'm a research person myself, so I always ask questions, I investigate. So how would they know that the companies or the places that they're staying have been vetted, or that they're not going to show up and then find out that there's barbed wire instead of wood fencing, those type of things?
Yeah, totally. So right now, the app basically puts people together. So it puts the customer with the service provider, and it provides all the phone numbers and the website and everything, so that you can then phone up that service provider and have a conversation with them before you book it. So you can ask those questions directly of them.
And do they post photos of their facilities? And
yeah, so they post photos, they put a write-up on there, and then you can look at that, and then you can contact them direct. And they'll put a website on there as well, so you can go onto the website and see it. And it's basically, it's like when you're planning a trip with Airbnb, trying to find out where you can stay in, what accommodation. It's exactly the same as that. We just don't offer the booking service as well, because that's another $1 million to be able to put a booking system in place for that. So it's more of an introduction between the customer and the service provider. But
so you actually get to talk to them or text with them, or
or email. I'm planning a trip soon, so we built it because we need it, right? We're traveling with horses all the time, and my business partner does too. She competes, and so on that front, we needed this app, and so we use it too. And so I was just in touch with some people yesterday about a trip. So everyone's everyone in the equine industry is amazing, so you get to know some really cool people.
Right. So like you being in Canada and you want to go to the US or vice versa, then is there any glitches that you need to be aware of when you're trying to plan those type of trips when you're going out of country?
Not on the app, no. So anything in North America works really well. We're starting to get subscribers elsewhere in the world, but that's very new. Like the stuff we've got in North America, we've got quite a few subscribers that list services, and we've got quite a few people that are using those services as well. So no, it's fine going from Canada into the US. That works really well.
Okay, because there's a lot of people, Kevin, that go from US to Canada for competition and sport. So
if it's hard to get back here if you go there, and then, or is it the reverse that? Is it easy if you come to the United States? I know that you have proper paperwork and stuff, but you get hassled at the border and stuff.
Yeah, you'll get questioned for sure about the horses. I've never personally taken horses across the border, but you do have to be well prepared with all the paperwork for them.
Oh, that's good information to know. And by the way, Catherine, you got some great questions, young lady.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I do ride, I do travel. And so in traveling with horses, it's different than a dog. This is an animal that's huge. I mean, it weighs a lot. And if you get into trouble and you're alongside the road, or you need a place to stay and it's bad weather, let's say you come across bad weather, Chris, how can this app help you in that situation?
Yeah, exactly. So you just go into it, you see where you are, and it'll pop up with all the properties that are nearby that has places to keep your horse. And it might just be a field, or it might be a place that you can stay as well. So all that information comes up once you put in your location or where you're going. And so that was the whole point of it. And it works offline too, because again, when we're traveling around Canada, there's very little service in places. And so once you've downloaded it, it works offline. But
that's great.
Yeah. And I took some horses on the ferry the other day as well, right? So again, new experience, putting the horses in the trailer. We had a boarder here that was moving to Vancouver Island, so I offered to take the horse across. And so they're on a ferry for 2 hours, and we weren't quite sure how it was going to react, but we just actually went in the trailer with the horse and just talked to it and stayed with it and fed it hay, and it was totally happy being on the ferry. It was super cool.
That's good. So what about, is there a larger percentage of people that have facilities that have like an arena? So if you show up at night, you can turn your horses out, or are these mainly boarding facilities that already have a lot of horses?
Yeah, a bit of both. Some people that just have a field that they might have bought a property that has a horse field and they don't use it. And so they might have an Airbnb property on there. And so they'll list it through our app, all the way through to full equine facilities with indoor riding arenas. But again, once you click on the dot of where you're going, it'll tell you what services that they have within that. So Yeah, it's mainly kind of somewhere in the middle of that. It's mainly people that might have a couple of horses and they have some spare fields, and so they're offering those up for people traveling through. And some people charge for it, and some people don't. We've got one customer that's like, I don't want to charge. If anyone needs my field, it's here, which is great, right? So
Right.
it works
So
both ways.
what's the average of amount of how many horses they can actually take into a facility? What's kind of the average?
3, 4, 5 horses, somewhere kind of in that realm. And so again, every single place is different, and it might just be it's a corral, right? And if they're all your own horses put into one corral, again, they know each other. It's when you put fresh horses in with horses that are established, so that's creates the problem. So generally, it's never a field with other horses. It's your own horses in a space. In a space,
yeah. Are there ways, like, let's say, my polo friends are traveling somewhere out of state and they're going cross country. Is there a way on the app that they can quickly find out that they can have more horses at one facility because they have a string of polo ponies, and so they typically have a bigger trailer with a lot more horses?
Yeah, again, when they would book it, they'd have to be in touch. You can't book it on the app, so you have to be in touch on email or on the phone. So people would ask those questions when they phone the provider up.
Okay, so it's not like you can go in and have like a list, like, and say, I have 5 horses and, I need this, this, and this, and do like a check mark type situation?
Not yet. That might be a future development.
Okay.
App development is so incredibly expensive. So right now we've got it introducing the horse owner to the stables.
Okay.
So that's the process right now. Yeah. So again, they just ask them on the phone or email or look at their website. Again, they've got a website and they're listing that kind of stuff out.
Right.
So Catherine, if you're taking a string of ponies, I guess that's the term, string of ponies, to go to a polo match, how many ponies is that?
Well, it depends on the owner. I mean, some people have one horse and they rent other horses while they're there. Some people own a string. They might have 6, ponies or 4 ponies, depending on who's coming with them. Sometimes people offer to haul a couple of extra horses for somebody if they're headed to a match and catch a ride, that type of thing. If they're going across state, going across lines. So, a large horse trailer, for instance, George Dill Farms, he rents horses for other people to play. So he has a huge horse trailer, and that's all he's hauling. He's hauling with a semi loader.
Wow.
And he comes into Canada. He was just up in Calgary last week. So he goes down to the desert. So, he's putting as many ponies as he can in, and he has to stay overnight. You can only trailer a horse for so many hours. You need to give them a rest, and you need a place to turn them out where they can exercise a little bit and walk around so they don't get stiff or sore, that type of thing. But majority of people, excuse me?
And have a drink and have some food and
right. But most people have a couple horses that go across country a lot of times if they're competing in something.
Somehow we got back onto horses again. So
sure. That was the theme of it. We'll talk about select contracts another time. That might be on the next conversation.
Yes, we're not going to have time to go. So we'll do that next time because you are the CEO, and people are going to ask you about that. But I would love to have you back. And Catherine, you're always welcome to come back.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Kevin.
But because you answered the question correctly the last time you were here, because you're a polo rider, and I was talking to you about the movie Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
And at halftime during. They were at a polo match, and everybody's dressed up real nice and pretty, and it's a real it's got a lot of tradition to it. And apparently one of the traditions is during halftime, the spectators go out onto the field and they turn the grass that's been turned up by the ponies over and pat it down and stuff. And so they tell you the only thing you don't want to do is pick up a piece of grass, a piece of dirt that is still steaming. That's not a good idea.
No, but you don't really pick it up. You divot stomp. So maybe you don't want to go out there in your fancy shoes and your high heels and stomp horse manure.
See, I thought the divot stomp was like a country music song or something.
Oh, no, it's a polo thing. But, George is having a tournament this weekend in LaConner, so come on out
And so in LaConner, you can go to a polo match.
this weekend. Yep, Saturday and Sunday. Yeah.
Oh, really good. Chris, what do you got going with yourself? And we've got just a couple of moments left. Is there anything that our audience needs to know? We're going to have all your websites and stuff up for them, but anything else that they need to know?
Well, I think next time we can talk about select contracts. That builds like downhill bike parks and surf parks and consults to ski resorts all over the world. And that's the one where we're trying to get more kids and families off their phones and away from the TVs and off the couches and get outside and do activities and get healthier. So we'll maybe touch on that next time and get into that in a bit more detail then. That's my main business. That's my day job.
That sounds fun.
That's what we'll talk about. And Catherine's got 56 acres, so she can build a water park or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Although it sounds really nice. I think I should bring the horses down. We should just go for a ride through it. Sounds nice.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah.
Indeed.
We can go when the lake level's down in the spring and ride along the Columbia River on the beach.
And that would be fun. We got to go, I'm afraid. Catherine James has been our guest, and Chris Sutton has been our guest. Go to positivetalkradio.net and you'll find out all about them. And thank you so much for being here. And by the way, be kind to one another because each other's all we got.
Enjoy the ride, everybody. Thank you, Kevin.